I'm going to address, I think, what is an important topic of breathing. And the art of breathing, if it's done properly, you can certainly optimize your health and well-being. And also, what I'm going to try and do is to marry ancient wisdom with modern science wherever I can. And so we have to breathe. You are alive, but we have to breathe properly. And so that's me. Done a lot of work in the UK, 30, 40 years, and I'm now living in Canada. So let's just begin and go back to the real ancient traditions. And I have a Vedic upbringing, so I'm going to go and looking at cosmic breath. And each of the levels of being grows out of the one above it. So we descend from source downwards. Pure consciousness is source. It's the universal mind that leads to the physical existence that we are. It's like the tide, the forms take shape and disappear into the pure consciousness. And we are part of that. And it's like a process of expansion and contraction, pulled back in. And so you have source, ether, in the nothingness is everything, Anu, the most basic fundamental particle that eventually emerges as matter. And this process is nothing more than a cosmic inhalation and exhalation. It's called the cosmic breath. It's part of the cosmic dance. And with each inspiration, it's regarded in the Vedic view that we are born. With each expiration, we so-called die. And so we'll talk about this about last breath or so later on. So if we know how to die, we know how to live. And so we have to recognize what this life is all about and then move along. And the Hindu Vedic journey of life it says that we are the soul. It's called in Sanskrit Jiv Atma. Jiv means life. This body or temple. And the philosophy is that we have to get to realizing who we are. It's called truth or moksha, becoming one with the Almighty, this ascension process, the divine body. The trouble is that we know it in theory, but there is a block. And this blue thing is representing the block. And so here's our life. We are born out here and we go down to death. It's a finite time. We don't know how long the piece of string is, but when the time comes, you go. And so what is the block? What does the block comprise? Well, it comprises karmic issues, ignorance, desires, ego, your lower mind, beliefs, unresolved issues, thoughts, and addiction. And that is what prevents us from moving from who we are in this body, physical temple, to self-realization. Well, what is the answer to this journey? How do we go from the bottom here to there? And I believe that it is through breathing, meditation, and such techniques that we have. Now, we are at the moment really issues that are confronted. You see, 100, 200, 300, or 5,000 years ago, we did not have these same issues that are a constant stress to us. And there's physical element, you know, we have energy, immunity, pH, acidosis, excretion weight. Those are physical aspects. There's also mental, emotional issues, big time. Negative thoughts, early childhood experiences, the issues that are in my tissues, stress. We live a very sedentary life. And the modern vaccine, the last 4 years, it's vax, COVID, etc., etc. It just goes on. And then there is also the spiritual aspects. Who am I? Karma, life issues, self-realization. And I think to overcome all these stresses, both external and internal, there is one mechanism that I know that can overcome this, and that's our breath, our breathing. So this is the body, mind, soul model. And we have the body here, the mind, conscious mind, subconscious mind, and the immortal, which is the soul. And we have the environment, the active senses and cognitive senses relate us to that. And of course, our journey, and we have linear time, our journey is to move from this side to where the arrow says, to recognizing who we are. And yet, our mind here moves us in the opposite direction into the environment. When I talk about environment, I also mean the internal environment. And of course, this particular conscious mind is only active 5% of the time. The subconscious mind is active 95% of the time. And it is a million times stronger. It's your hard disk, hardware, as opposed to the conscious mind, the software. And in the first 7 years of life, you have fragmentations. No, you can't do it. Don't do it. This, that, and the other. There's also epigenetics involved and karma as well. And I think the connection between these two are the breath and meditation. And the science of pranayama, and I'll talk about that later on, oxygen is the flywheel of the body, oxygen, pranic, chi, mana, etc. So that's the model that we have. And what do we really need to survive as a human being? We intake, we have air, water, food, and get rid of waste, detox. Now, if you don't have detox going on, you can have the best intake and you're not going to get anywhere. And in order for us to stay pure, we need perspiration, urination, respiration, and excretion, elimination. Those are the 4 pathways that we have. Women, in addition, in their menstrual days, have menstruation as a path of clearance. And then we also need adequate sleep, healthy, loving sex, lovemaking, and exercise, movement. And of course, for the mind, there's relaxation, meditation, pranayama is breathing, grounding, being in nature, and rita is falling in the rhythm of nature. Rita, that's the Sanskrit name. And of course, intake and output have to be in balance. If you are not in homeostasis, then there is no healing. But harmony with self brings about the healing that we need. And so Ayurveda and yoga, as well as other traditions, provide a systematic approach to this breathing. It's a key element for healthy survival. So our talk today is air and breathing, respiration. So it reminds me of a Hindu sonnet, which says that this life is like a flash of lightning in the darkness. And in that flash, we have to thread a pearl, needle, eye of a needle, in that 2 seconds of the flash. And it says, before we know, time goes on, and you have wasted 21,600 gifts or opportunities. Now, what does the 21,600,000 refer to? These are the number of breaths we take in 24 hours. So breath is a key element that the ancients recognized and practiced adequately. So breathing. So what do we mean by breathing? What is it? What is healthy breathing? Well, it's nasal, in and out through the nose, diaphragmatic, quiet, gentle, pause during exhale, regular, and effortless. That's how our healthy breathing ought to be. However, we have gone, many of us, including me, have gone into a unhealthy breathing pattern we call it dysfunctional breathing, and breathing when we get stressed. Our life is full of stress. We breathe faster, irregular, volume gets bigger, no pause between breaths, upper chest through the mouth, and requires effort. So a lot of us are breathing in an unhealthy way. And so the question is, what if we were breathing unhealthy all the time? What would be the consequence? And I'm going to describe that as the lecture goes on. So deep breathing, this is another conundrum. Deep breathing doesn't help because we don't have a deficiency in oxygen. Chronic deep breathing equals chronic sympathetic dominance. But we have to be breathing like a baby. Light breathing, healthy breathing, parasympathetic dominant. You don't even notice that a baby is breathing while asleep. And so the aim is to have slow, shallow, silent abdominal breathing. And that we know prolongs life and well-being, well recognized in science. Normally it's 15 breaths per minute. We have to get to bringing it down to 5 breaths per minute. And breathing less is breathing more. It's an anachronism, but you have to recognize that heavy breathing does not provide more oxygen. In fact, it's deleterious and stimulates the sympathetic system. So the perfect human breathes as though they are not breathing at all, Lao Tzu said. So we all breathe, yes, of course, but do we breathe correctly? Are we aware of the true potential of breathing? So if you change your breathing, you change your life and you focus on your breathing. And to breathe is to live. Breathing correctly is the key to living fully and leads to harmony and balance in our bodily system. But equally, poor breathing leads to reduced vitality, weakening of our entire system, serious health issues. And modern life stresses, which I just mentioned in a previous slide, are different from, say, 100 years ago. And now our life is full of stresses. And so conscious breathing, to optimize breathing habits for life, you have to be aware of your breathing. Continual awareness and practice of correct breathing, engage in regular yoga, Pilates, spinal hygiene exercise program, etc. And you are breathing for energy, because that's the essence of how we survive. We are energy beings, we are frequency, and that's how it is. So breathing is a key element of that the faster than the most powerful way to get your brain and body out of stress and anxiety is actually using your breath. So you can influence the body by good or bad breathing. Breathing patterns can heavily influence the brain. It takes 24 hours to reset the center in the brain into a new pattern and altering the set point for carbon dioxide. And we'll come back to carbon dioxide. It's key component, I think, even more important than oxygen. And we all talk about oxygen and oxygen deficiencies. In fact, CO2 is what controls everything. And the brain center in the hindbrain that controls breathing is controlled not by oxygen level, but by carbon dioxide levels. So this is some evidence that talks to this conscious breathing. More often, scattered focus, lack of attention tends to drive your respiration. Susceptibility, top-down control, making your breath shallow and erratic, dysregulated breathing. The good news is that you can control those by taking control of your breathing. And these are the references that are there. So the lungs are a mirror image of trees. And our lungs, designed through millions of years of evolutionary intelligence to breathe together with the plants, and oxygen and carbon dioxide. CO2 is the miracle molecule of all life for greening our planet. Without it, we would die. and all this nonsense that goes on about climate change and high temperature, etc., etc. It's all a big BS. There is an underlying reality in our bodies that connects us to the health of the trees and nature of entire creation. So plants breathe, and we breathe. Expansion, contraction. And so nature offers us a tuner. So it's the anagram of nature is a tuner through which we can tune into nature's mysteries and align our mind, soul, energy to her healing powers through our conscious breathing. So this is number one that's appeared. I'm going to go through some breathing advices, simple, getting more complex, and the nature of benefits year round. New science shows us that getting outside can help boost immunity, mood, cardiovascular, and so much more. Plus, time outside in every season helps you build a better microbiome. And according to the research, the benefits of nature are broad and include so many things: improved immune function, cardiovascular health, respiratory system, wards of respiratory and allergies, decreased mood disorders, depression is alleviated, mental relaxation, feeling of awe, and increased gratitude and selflessness. And the takeaway is getting into nature as much as possible benefit your gut health and in turn your mood, immunity, and so much more. And yet we are now living, most of us in urban areas are living in concrete jungles away from the rural areas that we were. So that's the reference to that particular, these references. There is a triad, and the triad involves meditation. That's the first thing. What is meditation? It's getting you to be more receptive, active, and you become familiar with what? With yourself, who you are. Self-observation, self-development, you cultivate self, slow breathing down. And here another Zen saying says that you should sit in meditation for 20 minutes a day, unless you're too busy, and then you should sit for an hour. I think that the message is quite clear. There's also the triad. The second is the conscious breathing, which I've said, slow rhythmical breathing, diaphragmatic, deep from the top. See, that's what diaphragm means, deep down from the top lung down to the bottom. And then grounding, being in nature. So we've talked about those already. So number two, you have to set what is the meditation breathing to become more conscious and aware. You set your intention and become aware. Become aware of your breathing and do not change anything, just observe. Breath, inhale through the nose and exhale through the nose. And then you focus on breathing, especially if the mind wanders, as can be with meditation. It's a monkey mind. It goes all over the place, Suddenly I'm meditating in Toronto and my mind has rushed off to Hong Kong or Australia. You need to get back to focus, and breathing says. So yogic saying says, breathe silently such that the fine hairs in the nostrils do not move. That's an art you develop. And gradually slow your breathing down from 15 to 5 minutes. Controlled, slow breathing dampens the sympathetic response and increases the parasympathetic. And you inhale positive emotions, peace, gratitude, and prolong exhale, release, let go of the negative ones. And you breathe with a feeling of gratitude. And this is the meditative process. No magic about it. It just can be done quite easily. So the health benefits of breathing, there are many, and we'll come across those. Lower blood pressure, immunity, relaxes the body, mind, releases tension, assists in weight control, strengthens the heart, improves quality of blood, mood, etc. And of course, relief of stress, breathing techniques, and we'll come back to that. So breathing artfully, what are the basics? Well, again, I quote qui-gong master, there are 3 levels of breathing. Firstly, you breathe softly. The person next to you cannot hear your breath. Next step, level, you breathe softly, you cannot hear yourself breathe. And finally, breathe softly such that you do not feel you are breathing. So you are out there into the unknown, into the realms, higher realms, and do not breathe more because it can be harmful. So let's look at the breathing apparatus anatomy. So this is the lungs here, two lungs. You see they are shaped like triangles. And the bottom half is where the action is, most of it. So there, we hardly use the bottom half of our lungs. And we use the upper half up there. So we have various sorts of breathing. The nasal cavity here, ring, is extremely important, vital. People think the nose is just for beauty and all the rest of it. No, there's more to the nose than just the beauty or the looks. We have diaphragmatic breathing, where the diaphragm moves down. You have thoracic breathing, you expand your chest, and sometimes you also have clavicular breathing. Now, the important thing is the diaphragmatic breathing is parasympathetic. The upper breath is sympathetic. Now, what about the nose? The nose, nasal breathing in and out increases nitric oxide, improves blood oxygenation, just like carbon dioxide does as well. The thoracic breathing here is upper breathing related to stress, anxiety, overbreathing, greater air upper lobes. The upper lobes are full of air, and the lower lobes where the blood is. So if you are mouth breathing, you do not equilibrate the upper and the lower lobes. So the diaphragmatic breathing, slow, conscious, highest concentration of blood in the lower lobe, you equilibrate, you get better exchange. So what regulates breathing rate and volume? Well, it's not, oops, sorry, I have to go back. It's not oxygen. Carbon dioxide is the primary regulator, as I've said. And the brain receptors monitor the concentration of carbon dioxide and to less extent oxygen in your blood, along with the acidity. And when levels of CO2 increase about a certain threshold, the CO2 receptors in the brain stimulate breathing to get rid of excess CO2. So oxygen delivery to cell gets impeded. CO2 is vital for hemoglobin to release oxygen. It's called the Bohr effect. I haven't got time to go into the science. And there is a pacemaker in the brain that controls breathing, just like there is a pacemaker in the heart, the sinoatrial node in the heart, there is one in the brain. And fast breathing agitates this pacemaker, but slow breathing calms it and it optimizes the breathing. So the key aspects of breathing, it's the only physiological process that can be voluntary or involuntary, more than just respiration. Breathing triggered by brainstem, if you lose conscious control of breathing, this is where the emotions, thoughts, and feelings also evoke. So it's tied up. Your emotions, etc., are also where the brainstem, brain center, breathing center is. So we learn breathing habits that serve us in powerful and unconscious ways, but like any kind of habit that may work for us or against us, you need to work daily on good breathing habits like a muscle. You use it or you lose it. The breathing rate and longevity, aging is proportional to respiratory rate. The faster you breathe, the greater the sympathetic drive. You live longer as your respiratory rate slow. And ancient wisdom said breathing should be subtle, not hard. So that's why when you say, oh, deep, hard breathing is good for you, and I've seen this in yoga classes and things, I think that's the wrong one. So next thing I found is that the position of your palms If you are sitting with palms facing down, say on your lap, you invoke upper two lobes, sympathetic stimulation. And you turn your palms upwards and you start invoking lower lobes, parasympathetic. You can try this out yourself. Your breathing gets slower. And then you bring your thumb and first finger to touch, which is the Jnana Mudra. Mudras is a position to aid in your practices. So that's how it is, a Jnana Mudra. The next thing is the first step in breathing. Become aware of the breathing. Focus gaze on the tip of the nose, the third eye, observing inhales and exhales. And that cuts off the limbic system input, which is where the survival mode is. You check in several times a day as to how you are breathing, and can lead to insights into how your breath works for you under different conditions. Exercise, you can do the exercise as well. And so the other thing, when you say relax, people forget that the most important thing to relax is also your mouth. And you close your mouth, the lips are touching, teeth should not touch, and the tongue rests in the air. That means you release the pressure on the temporomandibular joint. Now, why is that important? The trigeminal nerve, the fifth nerve, emerges at the temporomandibular joint, and it releases substance P, which stimulates the sympathetic nervous system. This is the trigeminal nerve here on the left. And so substance P is secreted by nerves and inflammatory cells. It has a profound pro-inflammatory effect and participates in the inflammatory disease. So if you don't relax and you're biting your teeth, crunching, you can end up getting tinnitus because these are linked. That whole area is linked as well. And even I've had dental surgeons who said that if your mouth alignment is not correct, and if you are mouth breathing, then that can upset the alignment as well. And we'll talk about mouth breathing in a while. So what should the breathing pattern be? So diaphragmatic, conscious with awareness, maintenance breathing helps you to, activates the parasympathetic system. You relax your mouth, lips, teeth, tongue, observe your breathing pattern, and then you go into diaphragmatic breathing. So what is diaphragmatic breathing? And that is when you breathe in, abdomen goes out, diaphragm goes down. Breathe out, abdomen goes in, diaphragm goes out. And this breathing reduces the respiratory rate, increases efficiency of gas transfer, reduces sympathetic activation, increases parasympathetic, and it's therapeutic for anxiety. So it needs to be consciously cultivated before it becomes automatic. Now, breathing artfully is to strengthen your diaphragm. This is an important. There's your diaphragm there, below the lungs, separating the respiratory cavity with the abdominal cavity. And it, to me, is the most important muscle in the body, because you inhale maximally through the nose, and what you do is you clamp your fingers to the two nostrils, you apply a 70 to 80%, and then you exhale. So you can do this 5 to 10 times. Resistance breathing is called pratiloma pranayam. Beware of diaphragmatic fatigue. Strengthen your respiratory muscles is a good way. The diaphragm needs to be, because if you don't have a strong diaphragm, you get diaphragmatic fatigue. And, athletes and trained people playing sport, they get diaphragmatic fatigue. And what happens? The lower limbs, blood is drawn up to meet the deficit in the respiratory areas. And after a while, the legs give way because there's no blood there and they go jelly. So this is a well-recognized thing. So breathing process in Yoga Shastra, in the yogas, it says there's a Purak inhalation, Rechaka exhalation, and Kumbhaka retention of breath. So the retention helps improve impurities in the blood. Physical, mental activity harmonizes the energy system and improves concentration. So when you inhale, it's a sympathetic mode. You retain, that's Kumbhaka. Here you exhale, parasympathetic, and you retain. So this process here on this side here is active, and this process, exhalation, is passive. It's an important cycle. And you can vary the amount of time you spend in each cycle. You can go 1, 4, 4, 1, or whatever it is that you want to. And you can inhale and followed by prolonged controlled exhalation. And this is one method that we have, breathing, slow, controlled exhalation. Deep inhale, exhale, you can purse your lips. Prolonged control, breathe out slowly through your mouth, 20 to 30 seconds. You repeat 4 to 5 times. And what this does is it activates the prefrontal lobes out here in the front, and they release GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid. It's a neurotransmitter that inhibits that limbic system, especially the amygdala nucleus, and it upregulates the parasympathetic, and that's the reference to it. Likewise, you can do a 1-minute breathing meditation. I do this regularly. You sit upright, your spine erect, 30 seconds of bellows breathing called Bhastrika. We'll come back to that later. You breathe deep through your nose, in and out, using all of your 5 lobes of the lung. 1 breath per second, you do 30 breaths. This activates your lower lobe, parasympathetic. We normally use upper lobes, SMS, increases oxygen in the brain and lowers CO2. The next 30 seconds, you just be. Don't breathe, don't do anything. Your body will start breathing when it needs to. And that puts you into a meditative place where you go into the nothingness. And in the nothingness, Ayurveda says, is everything. And just enjoy the nothingness, carry this feeling throughout the day, if necessary, repeat 3 to 4 times a day. And this pumps oxygen into the brain and has. The next technique is So Hum, breathing and meditation. Simple technique. And this is the chakra picture. And you inhale, you go so, as you go so, and you exhale, you go hum. And so hum, the yogic mantra Soham, is not only a reflection of the sound of the breath, but also carries deep meaning. I am that, so is I am, and hum is that. Here, that refers to all of creation, the one breathing us all, the creator. Breath in, breathe in, observe the breath from navel to the top. So as you breathe out, nose to the navel, and you say hum. The point of turnaround is at bottom and at top, as you saw in the red circles. And when I get to the top, I say, I am. And at the bottom, I say, I am my breath. In the turning, you become aware. In that turning, if you pause, Kumbhaka, you become more aware and wake up, and the Kundalini starts rising. So let's come back to the nasal passage, because I've said nasal patches are so vital. So this is a picture of the nasal passage. And this is the first cranial nerve. This is the brain. These are the turbinate bones, erectile tissue, air and moisture gets, and you can see the brain, the hypothalamus, pituitary, very close to this place. Now, of course, in this COVID day, they do a PCR test, they stick the the stick right up there. And what the aim is to injure that cribriform plate so that the poison in the swab gets into your brain. That's bad news. Now, why is nose breathing important? You get 10 to 15% higher oxygenation of the blood and release of nitric oxide, blood vessel dilator, the alveoli are expanded. It's also involved in the function of the nervous system. It helps to maintain, repair, and defend every cell in the body. Nose is for breathing, mouth is for eating, a fundamental thing. And nose breathing calms you down, mouth breathing stimulates you. The ancient wisdom were found to be true in this particular study in the International Journal of Neurosciences. So mouth breathing increases sympathetic, decreases PSA. Now, if you are mouth breathing, especially at night, this is so important because if you are mouth breathing, you are getting disturbed sleep, you don't sleep well. And so I just tape my mouth and I have a tape here. I don't know whether you can see me, but I take the tape, put it on, take it off, and it's not duct tape or anything like that that you put on. You have to get these micropore tapes from the chemist, which are medical. So panacea, I'm going to go through this very quickly. Nitrous oxide, it's a panacea molecule. These people got the Nobel Prize for identifying it. And the negative effects of mouth breathing, snoring, sleep apnea, asthma, ADHD, migraines, etc., etc. So mouth breathing is no good, especially at sleep. So the next breathing mode is food and breathing. You think food and breathing is not connected? I say yes, it is. And you never eat when you are stressed. Of course, you don't eat junk food, but when you are stressed, your cortical system, the sympathetic nervous system, and the rest and digest function, which is when you have your parasympathetic system, is not there. So you breathe deeply with gratitude before a meal. And if you have to eat when you are stressed, relax, 10 abdominal breaths, pray with gratitude. So today we live in a society of stress. This persists all day. Brain perceives you are in survival mode, and why proper breathing is the key to optimal health and cost minding. And this is the dysfunctional breathing. Again, these are habits that are developed in response to some type of breathing. And this dysfunctional breathing leads to higher CO2 concentrations. And if you have higher CO2 levels within the biological norm, the greater the likelihood that your breathing is supporting your health and performance. So good breathing, bad breathing is behavior, a unique behavior that regulates body chemistry. So stress and breathing, stress leads to stress, which is anxiety, anger, flight, fight, freeze, leads to dysfunctional breathing, slow, rapid, overheat count. But what people don't realize is that this dysfunctional breathing becomes part of you. And when you constantly are dysfunctional breathing, then that induces stress. So it's a vicious circle. We had to get around it. And we have to move away from this sympathetic drive that we have. Oops, sorry. Sympathetic drive. The sympathetic increases your heart rate variability decreases, and so forth. So we have to get away from this, and breathing helps you to do that. So I think I'm just going. You focus, for conscious breathing is how you break out of this cycle. And if all begins by making different choices and rising in the sun, deep breathly, and we make new and better choices, we help our body, mind, spirit to come back to. So the breath relieving strategies that we have, trigger gets you all tense. So there are triggers for dysfunctional breathing. breathe changes to rapid and shallow. So what you have to do, just stop, get centered, become conscious, abdominal breaths, observe and release and be in the now. And of course, long term, you decrease the drama, you let go and don't get caught up in including your own thoughts and chatter. Start breathing with gratitude and radiate compassion. So the next thing is you can activate your vagus nerve. Vagus nerve is a key nerve that emanates from behind, and it comes out from the back of the ear. That's your vagus nerve. It's a parasympathetic, and then these sympathetic ganglia. They all combine, interact, and the nodes form the chakras. So you can do, you take the right middle finger, and that is behind the earlobe. There is an acupressure point called the triple warmer 17. That's the vagus gateway. Fingers, you cover jaw and neck, and then you talk to the vagus nerve. You meditate, you breathe in and out slowly, and you stimulate the vagus nerve. You have essential oils, you can put some essential oil there as well. So that's one way of, now, how do you actually lower the anxiety in your brain? And the best way that I know is the physiological side. It's a pattern of breathing that we are wired to engage in spontaneously when CO2 gets too high and our system is triggered to breathe. Yawning is one aspect. And so when you take a breath in, this is a diagram of a physiological side. Your first inhale, you take a first inhale, and before exhaling, you do a second inhale. And then through your mouth or nose, you do a long exhale sigh. And using the physiological sighs is the fastest way to bring your stress levels down. You inhale, inhale, exhale, maximum offloading of CO2. And the second breath on the physiological side fully opens the alveoli to maximally offload CO2 to lower the stress, anxiety, and calm the mind. So this sympathetic stress beneficial. Yes, stress is beneficial, but you have to have it controlled. We have 70 plus trillion cells in our body, and mitochondrial function, these are the mitochondria, are key to energy release, and there are breathing techniques to help mitochondrial function. I'm not going to go into those because they are quite detailed. That's another lecture in its own right. But the whole process is called hormesis. And, oops, I'm going too fast. So hormesis is an adaptive response of cells and organisms to a moderate stress, process by which a mild acute stressor increases resistance to other stresses and increases health, resistance, and vitality of the body. We need a degree of stress to keep our body in tune. And the breath holding pranayama, I've described this, the 1 minute meditation is just that. Rapid breathing, hold breath. And that's something that is very good, that puts your body into stress. And the other, walk breathing, you exhale and hold the breath out, count how many paces you can do before you need a breath, and breathe until you return back to normal breathing. You repeat this 4 or 12 times. I do this when I go on my walks, barefoot, grounded on in the park. So I want to go through very quickly through some breathing artfully, the first breath and last breath. And the first and last breath, more energy and mental clarity, we say he is inspired. There is an inspiration in the way the first breath in life is a massive inspiration, a grand new beginning. When someone dies, we say he has expired. Oops. The breath has gone out, the energy, prana, has left. It's not moving very. The first breath can be especially traumatic in artificial environments especially hospitals and C-sections theaters. And of course, at times breathing is shallow. It's a traumatic moment for most. The one unit of mother and fetus is broken, beginning of duality and separation, and it needs the comfort and love of mother and father. At the first breath, conclusions are formed associating breath with pain, fear, thought, that life is painful, or even death itself, especially so in hospital and cesarean section deliveries. So the last breath it's the awareness of death is the very bedrock of the path. Until you have developed this awareness, all other practices are useless. If you know how to die, then you know how to live. Your last breath and last thought dictate your afterlife and reincarnation. And the most important moment of our life will be the moment of our death, the last breath. That don't expect that at that time you will automatically know what's going on. I have been privileged to witness several deaths. For some, there was a great fear and fighting. For others, a peaceful surrender. Some tightened their muscles and final exhalation and final relaxation, and the journey begins. So this is what the first breath, when we are born. You live a worthy spiritual life, and you get to last breath, death. It is often said that we begin dying the moment we're born, and what the science is showing us very clearly is that we now begin healing the moment we're born. And the reason I can say that is because we know beyond any doubt, every organ in the human body is wired to heal, says Greg Baden. So what if you were told that you have just one breath left or just one day left before you expire and exhale for the last time? What would you do? And this, for me, is a really important message. What would I do to overcome all the issues that are in my tissues that are bothering me? This has not happened. That jab gave me a real rough time. Would those things really matter? What would matter would be love, not fear. So heart breathing, coherence and chaos and chakra. The heart is a divine creation. It aligns to heart rate variability, heart rate coherence. All these things are so important. And what we have, the heart-focused breathing. Physiologically touching heart with this mudra, just a namaste mudra, creates harmony, balance, peace, and coherence. Focus your attention in the area of the heart. Imagine your breath flowing in and out through the heart. Slow rhythm, breathe with a feeling of gratitude, and maintain your focus and breathing through the heart area leads naturally into a state of it, and it induces greater heart rate variability. And what is heart rate variability? Oh, I think I'll just pass this because time is moving on. So the heart is 1,000 times more powerful in terms of electromagnetic forces than the heart brain. The heart is a powerful and the largest toroid. Everything in the universe is toroidal, down to the basic anu particle. And the heart emits more EM fields according to your emotions. Positive emotions create positive physiological benefits and so forth. Your heart rate is not absolutely regular. The heart rate variability and great significance in our day-to-day life. It's linked with the brain, autonomic nervous system, stressed emotions, etc. As you age, there is less HRV. The higher the HRV, the greater is your resistance, and the optimal coherence is 0.1. So, breathing for your, this here on the left-hand side is your spinal canal with the CSF going around, your pineal gland, and these are your lower three chakras. Breathing and activating is important to move that energy from the lower chakras, the kundalini, up to the pineal body, the third eye. And pineal activation breathing is also an important, which releases melatonin, DMT, and the higher states. So there are two blocks. We live in a survival mode, and what we want to do is to move into a creative mode. And these creative modes are blocked. There are two blocks. One is at the heart, and the other one is at the pineal gland area, just before the pineal gland. And this is it's a periductal area showing the fourth ventricle, the third ventricle, and that's where the block is. And Wim Hof's method of breathing overcomes this. It's all an important facet of breathing. So how do you overcome this? So here's the man with the kundalini is here, and you ascend your energy that way. You have this is a survival mode. You want to get into a creative mode where you have elevated emotions. You move from particle to wave, Newtonian to quantum, and then you breathe with a level of energy and intensity that is greater than the hardwire programs, and then you move past. So that's the way you do it. And another way of doing this is related to releasing energy from the three centers of the brain, bottom three centers, wind up, and then your body becomes a magnet, and you run the magnet. The cerebral spinal fluid is, in fact, chemicals in it, electrolytes, salts. You create a toroid of electromagnetic field as you move the CSF by breathing. And what you do is basically you contract your intrinsic muscles, you move CSF to the brain, simultaneously inhale deeply through the nose to the top of the brain, and hold your breath, hold awareness, and you intend movement energy to the spine. And now, in the last few minutes, pranayam. What is pranayam? Prana is the life force energy, and pranayam is the breathing technique that we adopt. Life force energy, and the word pranayam consists of prana, energy or vital air, yam, stretch, extend, regulate, prolong. Pranayam is the ancient science related to the control of prana, which increases the oxygen intake, exercise internal organs, stimulates, balances the neuroendocrine system, and balances the parasympathetic sympathetic system. And these are the various routines that are practiced in the sage Patanjali pranayam pictures. We've talked about Bhastrika, Anulom Vilom, Bhramari, Bumblebee. That is breathing. This is meditative, but there are other types as well. There's so many. And of course, various modifications there. You see here on the right, Joe Dispenza, 365, Rebirth, Butenko, etc. And I follow the ancient routines, but modified with Joe Dispenza and Wim Hof. And Wim Hof does this breathing technique, and the Wim Hof method is a triad of cold therapy, cold showers, very good, breathing with holding your exhaled breath as long as, and a commitment to doing this. This is a triad, and it has many advantages. It's based on the control of the limbic system in the brain. And the Anulom Vilom, which is the alternate nostril breathing, you inhale through the left nostril, slow inhalation, you close right, open right, close nose, exhale through the right, then inhale through the right, etc. You go on. And the advantages of this are enormous, increases the production of nitric oxide. And also the right nostril is solar, it's sympathetic, and the left nostril is parasympathetic. And you have to balance these two in your breathing to raise your kundalini up. And of course, your consciousness, the left and the right brain, you have to balance these. And Anulom Vilom is a perfect way to do this, balances the left and right brains, evokes the respect for the divine feminine. So bumblebee, it's like a bee humming away. And it's easily done. Close ears with your thumbs, fingers on forehead and cheeks. You deep inhale and then start humming as you exhale through the nose. Lips are closed. With the sound, you feel your entire head and then the body vibrating as your humming expands outwards to the universe. And Om recitation is also similar. Om is also L-U-M, and you have three cavities that relate to the three letters of the word Om, and you go breathe in, and you at the you're vibrating your head. The ancient Indian rishis called 7.83 hertz the frequency of Om. It also happens to be the Mother Earth's natural heartbeat rhythm, known as the Schumann resonance. When you talk about the earth and the heart, that's an anagram. Heart and earth, it's say the anagram. And it's the same, by connecting to the power of the earth, we strengthen the power of our heart. And it's said in the Vedas, oops, I missed that out. Anyway, I think we'll just move on. So breathing and yoga asanas, last few slides now. Asana is a posture. Focus attention within the body, tissues and joints being stretched. You hold the posture, the significance and meaning of posture. You're breathing in coordination with the postures, in, out, through areas of tension. Works on all levels, physical, mental, spiritual. And I do this 7-step Surya Namaskar, where you breathe in and out, down preferably on the lawn, barefoot, at sunrise. Sun salutation, very important exercise to do. Yoga Nindra, I think I'm going to skip this because okay, let's just go. Yoga Nindra is again getting a form of yoga. Sleep is Nidra, but it has deeper meaning, and it's a greater philosophy, and it's gaining popularity, where you lie in the Shavasana pose and you experience a sense of deep relaxation and gain clarity, insight, and inspiration to the ancient art of yogic sleep, a system of total mind body relaxation. You are touching whilst you are in sleep mode, you are still awake and you are trying to reach the higher realms. And it's a good method to practice. So the last word about the art of breathing. A practical aid to health and well-being. Variety of breathing techniques, choose well, cannot do it all, but you have to do it. Bring you in harmony with self and nature, reduces stress and increases well-being, and part of the spiritual journey to fulfill our life contract and karmic obligations and finding yourself. The message is just do it.